Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the vTaaS IT webinar on the testing solution. I'm Alan Kerr of vTaaS IT, and one of the things I would ask, if you've got any questions, you should be able to see a question box, probably at the right-hand side of your screen. If you just type in any questions you've got as we're going through the webinar in there, and time allowing at the end, we'll attempt to answer them toward the end of the presentation. I'd first of all like to, one, apologise for the slight delay, but it appears as though most people are now on. I'd also like to apologise for every so often I'm going to end up on a bit of coughs, but hopefully, as I think we were saying the other day there when we were doing a wee test of this, that your firewalls will prevent any spread of the virus that I appear to have. I'm not so sure about my colleagues who are sitting with me at the moment, but hopefully they'll be able to avoid it as well. So, for today's agenda, we will be giving a brief overview of vTaaS IT, for those of you that don't know about this. Then an overview of what vTaaS Testing as a Service, which we shortened to vTaaS, actually is. James Bendel will then talk us through take us through a demo of vTaaS online, and I'll finish off by discussing the benefits and the pricing model. So to start, vTaaS IT are a focused, Oracle-focused support company, primarily in the J.D. Edwards space. We don't resell Oracle licenses on behalf of Oracle, as we want to remain independent of Oracle. And as such, if you don't actually sell licenses, you can't be a platinum partner. So don't get confused between the difference between an Oracle platinum partner and a gold partner. We've got all the necessary skills. It's just that we don't sell licenses because we want to remain independent. From a numbers perspective, just to give you an idea of our size, we employ 85 permanent staff, primarily in the UK, but we've also got a satellite office in Melbourne to provide round-the-clock support. We're currently supporting over 30,000 users, the majority of whom will be J.D. Edwards end users. And those users are located in around 25 countries around the globe. For those 30,000 users, we handle just over 80,000 tickets per year, and we'll get 5 data center vaults located around the UK to host both our own and our customers' hardware. We also provide a variety of cloud-based J.D. Edwards services from these data centers, vTaaS being one of them. If you're interested in any of the others, you can see them on the website and we can talk about them. And it can be seen from our ISO qualifications at the bottom, we've got a strong focus on quality, which has been a key contributor to us having 100% retention of our managed service customer base. If we now have a quick look at our customers, our customers range from a number of small organisations such as Scotnet and Wireless Infrastructure Group down at the bottom there with about 100 or so employees. Then we go through to large public sector organisations, which you can see primarily down the left-hand side of the screen. And it also includes a number of major private companies such as Element 6, near top left, who are part of the De Beers Diamond Company. They manufacture industrial diamonds. C&C Group, who you might not know the name, but you'll know the brands. C&C Group are the largest net new J.D. Edwards customer in the UK for the last 3 years. C&C own Magners Cider, Gamers Cider, and Tennent's Caledonian Brewery. Also Demovo, who are a venture capital buyout from Ericsson. And then, for example, another one would be Wolseley. Again, you might not know the name Wolseley, but for those of you that are DIY people, you may recognise the bath centre, the drain centre, the plumb centre, all owned by Wolseley. So in short, we provide JD and Oracle services to a range of companies, regardless of their size and the vertical market that they operate within. So that was a brief introduction. I'm now going to start discussing vTaaS testing as a service, and hence we've all reduced that down to the vTaaS abbreviation that we've got for that. So traditionally, user acceptance testing is associated with major projects only. That's mainly because it's too difficult and time-consuming to have users involved in testing smaller module changes. The rule of thumb that we see is that regardless of the size of the project, design, development, and testing all equate to about a third of the project cost and time. The reality is that for smaller mod changes, the testing is probably somewhat less than this. You might unit test a change, but you just can't hope to resource a full system test. If you only unit test, then there's a risk of what I call the spaghetti issue, which is from my days when I was an IT manager. You change something in part A of the system, and 3 days later something goes wrong in part X, Y, or Z of the system. You don't know how the change you just made was linked to this, but you know they are because your production system's just fallen over, but you couldn't test it because you didn't have the resource to do that. For larger projects where you can get users involved, then there's a whole bundle of other issues that come with this. Users don't follow the scripts if they have any. They pretty quickly get bored and start testing what they want to test and don't follow the scripts. If you're lucky enough to get them to commit to the first test cycle, I mean, your chances for the second, you're almost definitely not going to get them back for the second and third cycles. So the results of this are that if you do insist on carrying out appropriate testing, then the delays in getting users involved normally means that your go-live date will slip, and normally by a significant margin. This can have other impacts, such as your version of the application that you're running goes out of support, and you miss out on new features that might be available within the upgraded application. This was a key issue for one of our customers who couldn't get end-user commitment to do the user acceptance test and delayed their upgrade by almost 3 years. That was one of the key reasons why we developed vTaaS. It was that way until we implemented and developed and implemented vTaaS for them. The alternative, which we've also seen with a number of customers doing an upgrade, is that you just switch it on without doing the proper user testing. The reality of which is that UAT starts on the Monday after the weekend switch on. And what do you expect when that happens? All hell breaks loose. As I've already mentioned, if you're only unit testing module changes, then there's a high risk of the spaghetti incident, as I refer to it. I've talked to many IT managers about vTaaS, and basically they all recognize these types of issues that I've discussed here. So if we look at what's out there in the marketplace, there's lots of test tools out there, but they normally have a pretty high upfront and ongoing maintenance cost. Their traditional focus is normally on volume testing and not functional testing. And to be honest, with the falling cost of hardware, performance should be less and less of an issue. The key issue, however, is the cost for you to maintain these tools in line with your application. First of all, you need to train your developers on how to maintain the test scripts, which, given that we've been doing this now for a number of years, is, take it from me, it's not straightforward. There are definite skills around hardening the scripts so that they'll run despite what the application is doing. James will discuss this a bit more and give examples when he's been through the demo. You need to train the test tool to be aware of your application and maintain it over time as you make changes to your application. So what's vTaaS and how does it differ from this? Well, probably the main difference from traditional test tools is that we provide vTaaS as a service and not as a product. We develop the test scripts for you, which includes access to over 200 JDE test scripts that we currently have. vTaaS IT can then run full regression tests for you on request and provide the test results back to you. As you develop and maintain your JDE application, or to be honest, any other web-based application, we maintain the scripts as part of the service, which ensures that this test tool is constantly used, unlike many others which quickly fall into disrepute and gather dust in the corner. So, what is vTaaS what is the actual service, the testing service, and how does vTaaS actually work? Regardless of whether you're doing tests manually or automating them, you should have test scripts defined of what you want to test and what you expect the test results to be. We've got a library of over 200 tests that can help you define this, and it's constantly growing as well as we get more customers coming onto vTaaS. For vTaaS, you then have a user run through, and this would be one of your users, they run through the scripts, the test scripts once online. vELOS IT capture these keystrokes into vTaaS, the keystrokes that are associated with the test scripts. Then we get to the complex bit, where with our background experience, we then harden these test scripts so that they'll run despite what the application may throw up. This can include how we handle, where a pop-up window appears on the JDE screen, or making sure that a test script doesn't run faster than the application. It can include things like doing full table scans of tables, where normally the JDE Edward application may only initially show part of a table. We also harden the scripts so that they can be run multiple times. In other words, if a test changes some data within your test system, that data would be needed for the next test run, we reset it back to its original content at the end of the test, so that the next time we run the test, it will run successfully and not fall over. Within vTaaS, we can assist you in creating appropriate test data as well to help make the test repeatable. Loading the test data is easy as it's done through spreadsheets. vELOS IT then run the test as and when required on behalf of the customer. It's run in the vELOS IT hardware and software, which is connected to the customer's test environment. So tests can be run immediately or scheduled as required. The test results are then available online to you, the customer, showing step by step within a test what has passed and what's failed. For the failures, we even capture and display the screen that the test has failed on. vTaaS also holds historic information on your test runs so that you can see any trends of areas of your JD Edwards system that might be more troublesome than others. And as stated before, we maintain the test scripts on your behalf in line with any application changes or upgrades that you're actually making. So, in summary, vTaaS is a service with no upfront cost. It's got a functional JD Edwards focus. The tests compare actual results with expected results. It captures and shows error screens in the test results, or even unexpected data values that might have come up on some screen that don't match against what you were expecting from the test results. You can schedule tests to run immediately or at specific times, or as frequently on a repeat basis as you want. And it's got a detailed reporting capability to show recent test runs and historic reporting. The test scripts, which are fully maintained as part of the service, can be used for doing full regression tests of normally an application release upgrade, a single module change, a tools release, or even an operating system or database release, which the last three really shouldn't impact the application, but quite often do. Another option that's not mentioned here is if you're doing a point release upgrade, it may be that you don't bother changing any of the test scripts in there. You just run them. Any that fail will then highlight differences between the point release and the production version that you're actually running. So that's a brief and quick introduction to vTaaS. What I'm now going to do is ask James, I'm going to hand over to James to run through a couple of demos of vTaaS, show you on the screen. So if you can bear with us for about 30 seconds while I hand over control to James. Sharing should be that one. Yeah. No. Right. Wee technical issue at the moment. Bear with us for a couple of seconds. Why is it doing that? Right. I've lost one of them. We'll have to start over again.
Okay, so what I'm going to just show you here is a video recording of a test being played through the vTaaS software. Yep, start again. So this is the web front end that we've created for vTaaS, so we'll just quickly log on to here. Once we've logged on, we've got the summary screen, which shows the number of jobs that the current user has submitted that are still to run, currently running and completed, as well as a summary chart of the number of passes and fails that have occurred. So what we'll do now is we'll go to our test screen, which shows the jobs that are currently scheduled to run or currently running. So currently there's no jobs running, so we've clicked on Add Job and we're going to add a new one. So we're just filtering through the test to find the one we want. So we've got several tests in there, like create an invoice, and apply a payment, apply a release, receipt. So we've chosen a job that we want to run. There could be several versions of the test in the system, and each version can have multiple data sets. So in this case, we've chosen version 2 of the test and data set 1. So the data set being the data values that we're going to plug into the script. So now we're just setting the start URL that the test will start at, and we can choose whether to run the job immediately or run it in the future. So here we can schedule the start date, and we can also set up a repeatable frequency, so it can run once, repeat every so many minutes, hours, or days, or run on particular days. But for the case of demo, we're just going to run it immediately. So what's happening now is vTaaS has now picked up the test job from the queue and is going to start running it. So what we'll do now is we'll just jump onto the test node machine. So this is where the actual test gets performed. Normally you wouldn't see this. This runs in the background. You only see the submission of the jobs and the results. But for the case, for the demo, we're just going to show you what it looks like as it's running. So I have actually cut a little bit of delay time out of this because sometimes the quick test, which is the testing engine, does take a while to load. So that's one of the reasons why I'm doing a video rather than a live demo. So quick test has started and it's loading up the JD Edwards application. This particular test is going to create a new supplier record within JD Edwards and then go through and do some validation to make sure all the records and values have saved in the database correctly. So while the test is running, I'll just explain a bit more of what Alan was talking about, the sort of capturing and hardening process for the test. So first of all, usually the customer sits down and with our sort of training records and captures the test script within the testing engine, and then passes the test over to the vTaaS testing team to harden. So what do we mean by harden? The main part of hardening is to add validation checks and waiting loops for the application to catch up. Because if we just ran the quick test script as it was recorded, it would very quickly overtake the application, because quite often JD Edwards can be a little bit slow in displaying pages and running queries. So we add extra checks in to make sure that it doesn't overtake it. We add code to checkpoints. Checkpoints in the test script check that particular values exist on the page that we're expecting. So we add extra code to the checkpoints to make sure that, again, that the application has a chance to display the correct results, but also to report the results back to us in the vTaaS web interface. We have to add custom sort of messages into there to sort of make it explainable in the results. There are also some quirks that Alan alluded to there with JDE displaying table data. Now, quite often tables within JD Edwards can often range up to 70 columns or so, but when you look at it through the JD Edwards application, it will only display 7 columns or so at the time, or whatever can fit on the screen, and all the rest are hidden. So that's also hidden from the testing engine. So all we have to do is add code to the test script to traverse the table and pick out all the values that we're actually looking for. Once we've done all that, some of the hardening processes are automated using our own custom software. Some of it we do manually. Once we've done all the hardening, we then repeat and run the test several times just to make sure that it's bug-free and will work and give us correct results. So we're just testing here now the data using the data browser. We're actually validating the values in the table, and this is one of the examples where we have to traverse through the table potentially to pick out all the values we want, because I think just there is probably about 8 or 9 columns that are visible that we might want to check a value which is further on down the table. So in that case, it's validated all those values. I think there's about 3 tables that we're going to check in this particular test. There does seem to be a little bit of a delay at each stage, but this is all part of the hardening process where it's actually checking that the values exist on the page, waiting for the page to fully load. Now it's doing a check to make sure that the query has run and it's actually returned some results before it actually does check the values in the table. And there you can see it's actually starting to traverse the table to pick out the values. Looks like one more table to check. So again, as Alan said, if you've got any questions, just type them into the application, the control panel for the webinar, and we'll answer them at the end. So this should be the final table being checked. And then eventually the test script will then log off cleanly and shut down the application. Once the application has closed down, the vTaaS program will parse the results that have been created by the testing engine, and then we'll put those results back into the vTaaS database so that they can then be reviewed within our web front end. So that's us logging off and closing down that. Okay, so we'll switch back to the web interface now. So just now it's processing the results, and we'll see that the job will now disappear off of the job queue. Okay, so we'll go back to the summary screen, and now we can see on our chart that we've got a successful pass for that particular test. now we want to go and look at the actual results for that test run. So this screen shows sort of traffic light system of green and red, pass and failure. So if we go and find the test script that we actually run, we can use the filter there, and we've also got the paging through the results. And there we can see that the test script passed in October of this month, and when I recorded it was on the 19th. So if we then click on that and expand the results, we'll then be able to check the individual steps that were performed in the test scripts, along with any sort of data values that we pulled out, such as address numbers that were created. So that was a successful pass. So what we'll do now is we'll just show you another quick test of a test script that is going to fail. It's one that I've set up to fail, just so we can see how it captures screenshots. So just bear with us while we start the other video.
Everybody get well back up.
Okay, so this is the second test. Yep, so we'll just log on again. So here we are on the summary screen. There's no results on the screen because I cleared them out before we did it. So we're just going to go and submit another test job, which I know is going to fail. So select that test. And here I'm going to choose a data set which I put an invalid value into it, so I know that it's going to fail. And we'll just start that running immediately. So vTaaS will then pick up that test and start running. And there we go. So we'll now jump back onto the test node machine so that we can see what is happening. So this particular test is going to try and create a new user-defined code, but it's going to put a blank value into the product code field, which is a mandatory field for creating a user-defined code. Okay, so this is us opening up the user-defined code screen, and here's the mandatory value that we need to enter into the product code, and it's going to try and continue, but has an error occurs. So at this point, what the testing engine is trying to do is it's validating a checkpoint to see if it can see the values it's expecting. At this point, it's going to fail. It'll capture a screenshot of the error, but it'll then try and continue for the rest of the test, because it might be that just a checkpoint or a particular data value is wrong, but the rest of the test can pass. So it'll then try and carry on. In this case, it's looking for a particular text box to enter a value into, but it can't find it. So now it knows that it definitely can't go any further. So it's quit out of JDE, and it's going to fail the test completely. So just go back to the vTaaS web interface, and we'll wait for the test to finish, which it has now done. So we're on to the summary screen, and we can see now that that test is recorded as a fail. So now we go and look at the results. We can see the top line there is the script that we just run. So we'll expand the results and view what it says. So there we can see the two lines there that have failed. The first one, as I said, was a checkpoint where it's validating that a data value existed on the screen, but it didn't. So it captured the screenshot that we were looking at. So this will help analyze what the problem was when we're looking at the results later on. So it then tried to continue, but it couldn't because it couldn't find the next text box that it wanted to enter value into. So again, it captured the screenshot where it failed. Okay, so that is the two demos that I wanted to show you. So I'm going to hand back to Alan, who's going to continue more with the presentation.
So again, just bear with us for 2 seconds while we change over. Who's got ownership? And hopefully that should be us back. Thanks James for that. So hopefully that gave you a bit of an overview of what vTaaS actually can do for you. Obviously the bits at the beginning and end of each of those recordings are the bits that you as the customer would actually see. The bit in the middle, which is the JD Edwards running, is all background stuff, but we just show you that to show that what's actually happening in the background. So I'm now going to talk through what we see as some of the benefits of the vTaaS solution. Basically, it reduces your application testing costs by reducing the end user and IT involvement in testing. It can be used for all types of changes, application release, module changes, tools, operating system and database changes. It's it's totally flexible as we manage the service on your behalf. It minimizes the upfront investment in that the only commitment you need to make is to have a user key in the test scripts, and they only have to do that once. And given that we've done this many times before, we can have you up and running tests within a matter of a few weeks rather than several months if you were to do this yourself. But probably the most important thing is that it improves the reliability of your JD Edwards application. Our first customer, Fidelity International, one of the world's largest fund management companies that used vTaaS, said that by a margin the Release 9 upgrade that they went through was the best and easiest upgrade they'd ever carried out. This was probably due to them running almost 200 scripts, test scripts, every other night for 2 months prior to go live. And it was an extremely smooth go live. I think actually in the first month of go live we had 2 incidents that were related to the release upgrade, and one of them was a password issue. It's also now been used by a number of our other customers, including recently Leicestershire County Council and Nottingham City Council, who are using it for their upgrades. So, while we believe the benefits are significant, obviously cost is a key factor in anyone deciding if they want to invest in vTaaS. So we're going to discuss the pricing model just now. And this is an indicative pricing. Obviously each customer will be different, so it changes for each customer. Basically we'll price vTaaS based on the number of test scripts that you require, the number of years that you would want to sign up for from a contract perspective, and an approximate idea of the frequency that you'd want to run the test, e.g. do you want to run them daily, weekly, or how often. And obviously that can vary differing depending on what you're actually doing. If you're doing a new release upgrade, then you're going to want to run them more frequently. But based on the above in our experience, we've assumed that a standard customer will take about approximately 200 test scripts, and most of our customers have signed up for a 3-year contract on this. To define a test is defined as a functional activity, such as entering a customer invoice or applying cash to an invoice. The pricing model includes all the licensing, the testing hardware at our side, and the services. It currently excludes, but could include if you wanted it, a dedicated vTaaS test environment at your end, which holds a pristine copy of your JD Edwards test environment. Our pricing also assumes that you will do one major upgrade every 3 years. And as I say, if that changes by customer, we can change that around. And for that model, this model of the 200 test scripts on a 3-year, we're charging £20,000 per annum on a 3-year contract. So that's Having carried out this development within vTaaS, within vTaaS IT, we know the cost associated with developing and maintaining a solution such as this. So we believe that if any customer wanted to develop a vTaaS equivalent in-house, then this slide shows what we believe the cost would be. It assumes that you would be using internal resource to develop an equivalent system, and we've assumed that as what I would call an opportunity cost of that resource of, let's say, £350 per day. So from a cost point of view, you get £5,000 for the test hardware that it would run on, £10,000 for the software licensing, which in our case is HP Quick Test, but there's a number of them out there, so it would be HP Quick Test and an equivalent. Probably about £100,000 to enhance your quick test solution to support, and this would be a reduced set of additional features that vTaaS has. And then to actually do the initial hardening of the scripts of your initial, let's say, 200 scripts at the $350 a day opportunity cost, we think that would be about another 70,000. And then as you're making changes to the application through the years, we've estimated about £15,000 a year to maintain the scripts in line with your application changes. So against that model, and we've tried not to lowball those numbers, we've tried to get them as accurate as we can. We reckon, obviously, from those numbers, the payback period of vTaaS is certainly under a year in this model. And all of that doesn't include the significant, the payback period doesn't, that's just on a pure cost basis. It doesn't include the significant cost benefits that you achieve by having a more stable application sitting there. So we're getting near the end now, and one of the things which we're keen to offer is for those customers that have got a clearly defined need for automated testing, we're also offering a proof of concept against your own JD Edwards test system, where we'll come on site for 1 to 2 days and set up a demo of 2 to 3 vTaaS tests against your own JD Edwards environment. So that offer's there on the table for those that may be interested. So I'm now going to switch over to questions, and again, just bear with us 2 wee minutes. We have, I think, a couple of questions. Right, the screen's not brilliant. How do I make that bigger? Right. So we've got our first question here, which is, can your 200 scripts be used straight out the box? Possibly, but we would re-record them anyway. And the big benefit of that is that the vast majority of the script hardening for those 200 scripts is already known. So those initial 200 scripts would be, you know, much easier to do. So let's again have another wee look at this. Have any customers validated vTaaS as a test tool for computer systems validation in the pharmaceutical industry? No, but it's not specific to any vertical industry. This is, vTaaS is specific to you, your own JD Edwards environment, because we record the scripts against your JD Edwards environment, regardless of what the changes are within that. Next one I've got is, yeah, we've already completed our Release 9 upgrade, and I'm planning another upgrade, probably until Fusion, so more than 3 years out. Would this affect the price? Yeah, probably. We'd certainly look at reducing the annual maintenance cost on it. But as I say, everybody's, you know, going to be different in this, and the pricing was just indicative from that point of view. Another one I've got is, what's the cost of creating scripts over custom development? We do that on the same basis that we basically blend it out as almost like an average average weight, in that some tests take longer to harden, some tests take a shorter time to harden. So basically, we take it as an average price. So if you had 200, which were reasonably, 100 of those were standard test scripts and 100 were, heavily modified, we're still looking at the same price. So in general, we wouldn't look to change that. I'm not saying that we would never do it, but if you've got an extremely complex environment, there might be a bit of a difference, but that's certainly not the intent of what we're trying to do. Okay. Yeah. Maybe we'll come back to the person that asked the question about the pharmaceutical stuff. Maybe we can come back to you later on, and we've got to know your name and then find out some more specifics on it to see if we can help answer that question in a bit more detail. Okay, so I think that's all the questions we've got at the moment. So thanks very much for those. And so really, and I almost got all the way through without coughing. Sorry. Oh, right. Yep. I've got please can you send out the presentation and video clips? Yes, we will do. We're not quite sure how big the video clip is. In fact, we do know how big the video clips are. Yeah, we can send those as well. I'm just a wee bit nervous that the size of them might cause you some problems, but they are available on the website. Yeah, what we also can do is we will make them available up on the website. And given that I said at the beginning that this is the first of a series of webinars, we're actually going to attempt to actually publish this webinar up on our website as well. So as and when that happens, we'll let you know. Okay, so thanks for that last one. I probably should have answered that at the beginning rather than having a question on it. So that's something that we've learned through this process as well. So next steps, basically, contact details are for myself. Also, Alan Sutherland's been in touch with you. I'll leave that up there on the screen for a few minutes if you're interested in getting back in touch with us. But you all have our email addresses, and most of them will have within the signature will have phone numbers on them. And it's just been pointed out to me that we have one more question. Will you be repeating this session again soon? Probably. We've had quite a good level of interest in this, so we'll certainly be, as I say, recording it and publishing it out there. We are planning to, as I say, do a series of these webinars across a number of the services that we provide, so we will be scheduling it in. But again, for customers that have a specific interest, then and as I said before, if you've got a specific interest, then we're very willing to come, and talk to you about your own specific requirements and what you actually need. Yeah, or even, if you've within your own company, you've got a number of people that would be interested in seeing it, we can run a focus session just for your own company as well. Another focus webcast webinar for that. Okay, I think now we are finished on questions, so with that I'll leave it at that, and thank you very much for your attendance. So thanks and goodbye.